Now, there's this one word that I would like you to value forever. I would like you to value this one word forever. And if you find it to be helpful, I recommend watching this video over and over again, thousands and thousands of times, so that you can value this one word. Why do I say that? Well, as you can see on my screen here, I've got our mind map that we were discussing last week. And if you would like a copy of it, the link is in the description. It says, stop seeking outwardly to know inwardly equals $1 million outwardly. In other words, the natural manifestation, the spontaneous manifestation, the reflection of $1 million is the result of knowing who you are and being as you are. See, when you know who you are and you allow yourself to be as you are, you naturally do what you love to do. And you naturally do it in a way that we can talk about it from the perspective of how Steve Jobs mentioned in his commencement speech, which I used to listen to over and over again when I was building my IT business. He said, follow your heart and intuition. Everything else is secondary. Now, that could sound force-based if you look at it at a very surface level. Everything else is secondary. Like, who cares about everything else? Well, what I found is that when you do what you love to do, when you follow your heart and intuition, everything gets taken care of. People, resources, opportunities naturally emerge. They just naturally do. I've seen this again and again and again. Not just with my own businesses, but also working with thousands of entrepreneurs since I moved into consulting in 2013. And even while I was building my IT business, I got to hang around with entrepreneurs, business owners, and I've seen this again and again and again. When the individual does what they love to do, naturally, people, resources, opportunities show up. They just naturally, spontaneously emerge and happen to be in harmony and in contribution. Now, why I believe this is the case is your vision is part of a grand vision. Your vision is part of a grand vision. So the way I like to relate to this and articulate this point is with this modified version of the Robert Dills logical levels. I modified it by putting the I on the top here. This I represents you, that pure awareness existing in consciousness as bliss. Your real nature is bliss. So some might ask me, why are we here? Well, my view on it is we are here to live and experience what is called in the Bible as thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So your vision is part of a grander vision. So your desire to manifest $1 million, $2 million, etc., happens to be in harmony and in contribution with all. When I look back at my business, all these years being a full-time entrepreneur since 2009, when I looked at the entrepreneurs that I have worked with, when I had looked at those that I have worked with that also ended up generating millions of dollars, we see an interesting pattern. Thousands, if not millions of people benefited greatly from the products, the services, the messages that were put out by the entrepreneurs. And it contributed to their well-being. And the natural reciprocal for that, naturally, giving and receiving is one. Just by being as you are giving. You are giving your joy, your happiness, your peace, your bliss. It's being transmuted into the product or service. That's giving. The receiving is the compensation. That's what I mean by stop seeking outwardly to know inwardly equals the reflection of $1 million. Now, there's one word that I absolutely love, and the word is commitment. Commitment. So all I do, all I teach is commit to your vision. Your vision is part of the grand vision. It's a microcosm of macrocosm. Think in terms of fractals. It's part of the whole. And then when you manifest that vision, whatever it may be, $1 million, $2 million, $100,000, whatever it may be, the next vision emerges. And everything that you had experienced along the way, everything that you had learned, your knowledge, your wisdom, your expertise, gets put into some way, somehow, the next vision. By that it is meant, the Steve Jobs commencement speech, he articulates it quite precisely. He talks about how he dropped into a calligraphy class, and then connecting the dots looking backwards, it contributed to the graphic user interface of Apple. Now, I can honestly say that from personal experience as well. I grew up with computers. That translated into a corporate IT career, which I was there for 10 years. While I was in corporate IT, I developed a great joy and passion for business. I was stimulated to get into entrepreneurship, so I left in 2009 and started an IT business. So I took my knowledge, wisdom, expertise, reference experience from my 10 years in corporate IT, the hard skills and the soft skills. By the way, we spoke about hard skills and soft skills. If you haven't seen that video, I'll link in the description to it. And then transmuted that into an IT business, which I built a success from 2009 to 13. And then I transmuted what I learned from there, which is the way that I categorize entrepreneurship: innovation, sales, marketing, operations, finance, and leadership, into a consulting practice, plus also started my other YouTube channel in 2013, where I discussed the books that were helpful along the way. And as I continued to grow, what happened was I discussed more books that were helpful. And here we are today. I've been an entrepreneur full-time for 16 years. And all I did was remain committed to my vision. That's it. You know, in Think and Grow Rich, he said, create a definite chief aim. And that's what I did since 2004. I have always had a definite chief aim, and every one of them were actualized. And you and I are not different. You can do the same. You just commit to a vision. You just commit to it. And here's the Robert Dills logical levels. All these areas transform: the identity, the values and beliefs, capabilities, behaviors, and environments. And then you have more knowledge, wisdom, expertise for the next phase or the next stage, which again is another vision that is part of the grand vision of Thy Will Be Done. And that's why I wrote my book on this topic, The Direct Path to $1 Million, Turn What You Already Have into a Fortune. If you're interested in that, I'll link to it in the description. So I always have a definite chief aim card. I have always committed to it, and they have all been actualized. Now, it's not just commitment. I like the other word, consistency, that I put into the mind map. I relate them together harmoniously. Commitment and consistency. So in other words, consistently committing. And this could sound force-based. See, all I suggest is actually what you genuinely desire to do, which is just do what you love to do. As Steve Jobs said in his commencement speech, follow your heart and intuition. Everything else is secondary. So all I did over the years is I just did what I love to do. And till this day, and for as long as I live, I will continue to do what I love to do. Perfect example is here I am right now. We're having this conversation. This is exactly where I desire to be. I don't want to be outside. I don't want to be somewhere else. I'm fully present here, fully committed to this conversation, and I do not desire to be anywhere else. Why would I be? I follow my heart and intuition. This is the step. This is the step right here. See, I shared this with a client the other day. When I talk about commitment and consistency, we can look at it this way. I just take the intuitive step. I follow my heart and intuition. Everything else is secondary, as Steve Jobs said in his commencement speech, which I used to watch over and over again while I was building my IT business. With each step, I gain further clarity. Right now, as we're having this conversation, ideas are popping up in my mind of what I can do later on. They just naturally emerge in mine as I take the intuitive step. See, rather than trying to jam your mind with all kinds of different ideas, I just let the natural flow of ideas happen. I commit to this step, and then the next step shows up. Even Think and Grow Rich, he said that. He said, plans, hunches, and inspirations will be received with it. And it doesn't overwhelm. It shows up as it shows up. So I take each step, I gain clarity, and then I optimize. As I also talk about in my book, optimization, automation, delegation, elimination, part or in whole or in combination. Now, I may do these things, or I may bring someone on to do these things. And here's a wonderful thing. The way I like to categorize it is relationships and assets, which include physical, digital, intangible assets, naturally emerge in flow. They just naturally emerge in flow to contribute to your vision. So you know you are already that which you desire to be. You already have what you desire. You are already that. You saw yourself in your imagination of already being the person that you desire to be. That means you are it. You, with respect to the Robert Dills Logical Levels Modified, have a vision. You have a vision. And all these areas appear to transform. We just let it happen. And then what happens is money starts showing up. And you just do what you love to do. And it benefits people greatly. And they give you wonderful compensation for it. Now, this was inspired also by a number of questions. So I'm going to go through these questions. And then we're going to infuse my responses into the conversation today. So first question was, I recently got let go from a lab job after working as a medical scientist for 10 years. Science was my first love, but now I'm feeling called to share more of my gifts through my podcast. Well, congratulations, which I've already monetized and grown to over 500,000 listens and one-on-one coaching. Congratulations. That is an example of doing what you love to do. I have episodes ready to go, but I don't feel excited to edit them, even though I want to release them, even though I want to express myself in this way, and I know it could support my finances. All I genuinely want to do right now is rest, do my own inner work, and be with myself. There's no fear or resistance behind it. It's not a block. I'm just not feeling the pull to act, even though I love the vision. What do you do when you're not resisting, but simply not inspired to take action, even towards something you love and believe in? Well, let's explore. You mentioned that you want to rest, which is perfectly fine. Rest is perfectly fine. It has nothing to do with being lazy. I take moments to rest as well. Part of being in flow is rejuvenation, which is why I stay up north here. I enjoy the parks. I enjoy nature. I snowboard in the winter. That's part of my rest, but it's also a lot of fun. And I do what I love to do. So these are the things I love to do. So rest is also something we love to do. And we can rest in a way that we love to rest, whatever it may be. You love to do your inner work, perfectly fine. Nothing wrong with that. And be with yourself, perfectly fine. Nothing wrong with that. So the question then is, what to do when you're not resisting, but simply not inspired to take action, even towards something you love and believe in. And let's explore this. Personal experience. And every individual that I've worked with. During these moments of rest, because you're committed to your vision, I remain committed to my vision. My environment, people support my vision in a mutually beneficial way. I support theirs, they support mine. And during moments of rest, I rejuvenate. Once in a while, I get a spontaneous, intuitive idea. I trust you get them as well. So I just take that intuitive step. And then with that step, I gain clarity, and then I optimize, and results happen. There was a time where I was doing a consulting deal for a company in California. So what happened was there was a lot of work that I was involved with. It was starting to pile up. So I took a break. I went for a walk. I honored the rest. I listened to my heart and intuition, which said, let's go for a walk. So I went for a walk, and I was doing nothing. I just was going for a walk. I was not thinking. I was resting. And then what naturally emerged was an idea to call someone up. As you may know, optimization, automation, delegation, elimination, part or in whole or in combination. You don't have to do these things. You could end up bringing someone on that could help you with these areas. Someone could naturally emerge who genuinely loves to do these areas, whatever they may be, editing videos, project management, etc. And that's exactly what happened. I had an idea to contact someone. I contacted her, and it just so happens that she was ecstatic about doing this particular consulting deal. So I brought her on, and she took on 95% of the things that I was doing. So I could focus on other higher leverage initiatives in that consulting deal and some other projects, etc., etc. I never run out of inspiration. Absolutely never run out of ideas of things to talk about. Even right now, we can go on for hours getting into nuances. Why is that the case? Well, in 2017, I made flow a priority. That's it. I looked in my life all throughout the years, and I said, when was I the happiest, most joyful? When was my relationships really harmonious? When was the results multiplying? When was I the most creative? When did I not run out of ideas, etc., etc., etc.? It was while I was in flow. That's why I teach flow, being in flow for entrepreneurs, for creatives, because while in flow, you get all the benefits. You never run out of ideas. If you take a break and it's not time for the idea to emerge, it's not like you're sitting around waiting for the idea. It's time to take a break. Perfectly fine. But I never feel stuck in flow. So there's no resistance in flow, and there's infinite inspiration in flow. Whatever it is that you're doing what you love to do. How do I know that? Well, upon connecting the dots, looking backwards, as we were discussing, when I made flow a priority, what I noticed was my channel started to grow in 2017, my YouTube channel. I started getting involved with more consulting deals that I genuinely love to do. I started to get opportunities show up that I naturally wanted to move forward with. And all these things started to move easier and faster. And it didn't feel force-based, didn't feel stress-based at all. Certainly there is no stress, there's no doubt, there's no hesitation in flow. So while in flow, you naturally do what you love to do. As I had mentioned earlier, doing what you love to do can sound like a forced, stress-based thing to do. Now it's time to do what I love to do. Now it's time to follow my heart and intuition. It could sound forced and stress-based. I just make flow a priority. I just stay in flow, and then everything happens perfectly as it does. And we could explore nuances to this if you would like in an upcoming video. So in relation to this particular mind map here, I just remain committed. That's it. I just commit. And I simplified it by saying, I just commit to the flow. That's it. Because I noticed that it was while I was in flow, all the tasks, projects, initiatives, and anything in relation to the Robert Dills logical levels here, anything in relation to environments, behaviors, capabilities, the inner work, which is related to identity and values and beliefs, all that stuff was happening naturally, effortlessly, spontaneously. We're talking emotional release, releasing identification to beliefs of limitation, emotional regulation, nervous system regulation, body flowing naturally, personal magnetism, charisma, confidence, all these things naturally manifest in flow, which is also related to a wonderful question that I would like to bring up and tie into this question here. Thank you, Joseph, for another insightful share from your personal experiences. You're welcome. My question, could you elaborate further on how limiting beliefs in relation to ideal opportunities, sales, and qualified customers are identified while in flow? Interesting point. I experienced that to identify these and then changing these consciously at times feels like stopping my natural flow. And also I experience at times that if I just keep flowing, then certain limiting beliefs or assumptions seem to flow with me and continue to play out as theater. So to say, important results seemingly are not tangible. Yet doing the subconscious mind work oftentimes feels like a stopping. Great point. While in flow, the what we can call subconscious mind work happens naturally. As I always say, emotional regulation, nervous system regulation, releasing identification to beliefs of limitation happen naturally in flow. See, while in flow, you are being as you are. You are doing what you love to do. You are enjoying the experience. That has enormous benefits for the subconscious mind, those beliefs of limitations in relation to the memories, stories, this, that, are transformed in flow. And then I get some optimization data, which I may look at after the experience. During the experience, I may or may not take down a note. I don't overthink it. There's no overthinking in flow. Think of, for example, I was bringing up the example of snowboarding. My cousin's kids were here over the weekend. They stayed over, and they go snowboarding as well. So I took them snowboarding last year. I introduced them to snowboarding. And they're learning really fast, super fast. They're already on the black diamonds really fast in one season. How did they get to the black diamonds in one season? They just did what they love to do. They just continued to go down the slopes again, and again. And as applicable, they would ask me questions. As applicable, they would watch videos on YouTube. They would talk to their friends, etc. And they would continue to progress. They would continue to progress effortlessly. And so now they're talking about going at the park, learning how to do tricks and all these things this season. So we'll see. All these things happen naturally in flow. Commitment and consistency. All I do every day is I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I do my morning routine, which is going to the gym, stretching. I do a run Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. Meditation, have a wonderful breakfast. And also, there's also rest in between because I get to have a wonderful drive to the gym, etc. I set up my environment, which is my style. You know the Frank Sinatra song, My Way. I do it my way. Your way is the best way, which is what I emphasize in the book. Your way is the best way. So I just discovered my way, which is doing what I love to do. And guess what? The intuitive step, I take the steps, I end up in flow. With each step, I gain clarity, optimization data, etc., etc. So I personally teach this subconscious mind work, and this is explored further in my subconscious mind program. It's not stress and force-based. You are that pure awareness prior to mind. Yes, you have a wonderful, glorious mind, as stated in the Hermetica. 2 gifts were bestowed upon humanity. They were mind and speech. And in mind, there may be this programming, which is cleared out in flow. And the natural manifestation, the reflection of that, is all these things added onto you. $1 million outwardly, $2 million, etc., etc., etc. Now, next question that I would like to infuse in. Today's a question day. And I'd like to explore some of these nuanced points that I put in here in relation to flow. Let's actually explore one and then tie it into the question. See, taking an intuitive step, maybe in the earlier stages, and that's generated by resistance, can be experienced as very challenging. super hard. No shame, no condemnation. That's totally fine. Flow happens, like Mihai Csikszentmihalyi articulated in the book Flow. I recommend reading it. When a person's skills are fully engaged in transmuting just the right amount of challenge. It's a sweet spot where challenge meets skill. You can calibrate accordingly. So, for example, if you are doing some prospecting, the idea of doing prospecting, 10 a day, 15 a day, seems very overwhelming. That's okay. You chunk it down. You say, okay, I just make the first phone call. That's it. And if that seems so overwhelming, I chunk it down to I just pick up the phone to dial, or I just draft up the email. And then what happens is, in the ideal ratio of where challenge meets skill, you take the intuitive step, because that's what you genuinely desire to do. You take the intuitive step, and then what happens is you experience flow. And mind purification happens. The limiting beliefs of I'm not good enough or I'm afraid to do it dissolve. Mind is purified. And guess what happens? Clarity is gained. You get some optimization data. Let's say you send the email and they respond back and they have some questions. You say, oh, interesting. Now, based on these questions, what I could do is I could create a product or service that I could offer them, and that's a match for them. They want that one. They're ready to go with that one. So you make the offer and acquire the client. How would you know that product or service unless you played your role in the grand scheme of things? And part of your role is taking that step, which is the intuitive step. You know, Florence Scovel Shinn, she said it in one of her wonderful books. She said, prayer is you telephoning to God, and intuition is God telephoning to you. I listen exclusively to my intuition. I just commit, and I consistently commit. I consistently commit to doing what I love to do. And as I remain in flow, the commitment and consistency, which could on the surface sound like a force-based thing to do, naturally happens. There's nobody forcing me to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I just wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and then I go through my morning routine, and then after my morning routine, it's the work day, etc., etc., etc. So I just do what I love to do. I remain committed, and everything happens naturally. And at times, if there was resistance, that's okay. I just chunk it down. I just chunk it down, like how I just mentioned. And I don't back away from the challenge. I personally recommend not backing away from the challenge when it's the intuitive thing to do. For example, I used to teach these speed reading workshops back in the days. 2009, 10 was the earlier stages of teaching these speed reading workshops on behalf of Iris Reading while I was building my IT business. I saw it as an opportunity to acquire some clients, develop my public speaking skills, etc., etc. Now, it was challenging because I would get anxiety on Friday, and the workshops were Saturday and Sunday. So it felt like the anxiety was building up from Monday to Friday, but I didn't suppress or repress that desire, that burning desire I had to teach the workshops. I transmuted it into wonderful presentation. How did I transmute it? I just took the intuitive step, and I did it again and again and again with consistency and commitment. Why? Because it's the intuitive thing. It's the thing that I genuinely love to do. So I wasn't afraid of the challenge. I just chunked it down. And I remember when I would start the events, I would talk to myself in a way where I would say, just the first 3 or 4 minutes of speaking in front of the audience, and at times there were 50 people, sometimes 100 people in hotel conference rooms on Saturday and Sunday, downtown Toronto, the Marriott by the Eaton Center, if anyone's from Toronto. And I just chunk it down. I'd say, first 5 minutes, I just flow into this presentation, and then everything gets easier after that. And that's exactly what happens. See, I chunk it down. I didn't think about all the things that could happen that are fear-based, that didn't happen, actually. 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 1 hour, afterwards, etc. I don't worry about those things. I just take the intuitive step, I chunk it down, and with each step, I gain clarity. What is some of the clarity? Optimizing the workshops. As mentioned with the Robert Dilts logical levels here, while in flow, you get optimization points for the environment, the behaviors, the capabilities, while in flow, you are transforming. The values and beliefs, the personal identity transform to reflect the vision. And that is part of the $1 million outwardly, as that deal with Iris Reading not only was generating a wonderful income, it was also laying the foundation for other deals I did with Iris Reading. Paul Novak, the founder of Iris Reading, and I became really good friends. And we did a number of business deals together. I remember this was a lot of fun. I did 16 flights in 30 days teaching speed reading workshops back in 2018. I created a number of programs with him. We joint ventured on a number of initiatives, and that all started by taking the intuitive step. So although it was challenging, I didn't back away from it. I just take the step. If it's too challenging, it's just perceived that way. If you chunk it down into smaller steps, you'll just naturally do it. Why? Because it's what you love to do. That is what you love to do. Let's look at the next question here. Hi, Joseph. Just wondering, do you help people who want to swap 9 to 5 to live in flow-based life and earn sufficiently to enjoy? I'm not IT-based, but science-based work, 10 to 15 years in hospital, and I'm done with that life. I'm trying, but not successful yet. Can you help me in this shift? Certainly I can. I do offer coaching and consulting. If you're interested in that, I'll link in the description to my website with the contact form, and you can fill out some details and I can get back to you. Let's explore based on what you shared here. So there's a genuine desire to do what you love to do. Now, there are many ways I have seen entrepreneurs succeed. Here are some ways that I have seen them do it. Either one of these will work, and we can explore whatever you'd like in an upcoming video. You can leave a question in the comment section. With respect to flow, let's tie flow into this. Now, the way that eases this, where it doesn't appear to be too challenging, that I've seen to be very effective, is the individual might not leave the job fully and then start their business, as in burn all bridges. Some might like it. That's actually something that's actually really helpful. Some might say, while I have this job, maybe I'll dedicate 2 or 3 hours in the evening to play around with a little side project or something like that, or a business initiative, just to see what it's like. Now, interestingly, I had a friend that did that, and what happened was he ended up generating a very substantial income from his side business, and he did not actually end up leaving his corporate career. He ended up actually staying in his corporate career. Now, I know another individual. What he did was he ended up doing a side business while he was working in corporate, and that side business ended up making more money than his corporate career, and then he transitioned. Now, I personally left my corporate career in 2009. I was doing a little bit of income, but for me personally, it wasn't a 9 to 5 job, even though in a particular point it was 9 to 5, but then I got more involved with the tech projects, and there was a lot of hours that I was putting into it. And then for me, going into this entrepreneur mode and then back to the corporate mode was very jarring for me, and it was way more flow-based to just leave. And so I ended up leaving and starting my business. Next question. Hi, Joseph. I've been bestowed upon some wonderful ideas for social media apps that solves many problems with money. Well, congratulations. Ideas are flowing into your mind. That is what happens as a result of knowing and being who you are. Ideas naturally flow into your mind. The intuitive ideas naturally flow. I'm not a professional in those fields. I'm an inventor. Great, you know who you are. See, as I say things like optimization, automation, delegation, elimination, to be very clear, it's not to suggest that the individual has to do these things. Trust that people, assets, digital assets, physical assets, intangible assets naturally emerge to be in harmony and in contribution with your vision in a mutually beneficial way, as they do. I could honestly, from connecting the dots looking backwards, see that pattern many times. It just naturally emerges. It's just the way it works. So you're clear. You are the one that plays a inventor role. You know how I segment entrepreneurship: innovation, sales, marketing, operations, finance, leadership. So you are the innovator, or we could say inventor. This time I want to be involved to be a custodian of the projects. So do you mean project manager or just maybe high level? Let's take a look. Where does one go? I might be interested to join a think tank. That will take a lot of flow from someone with just a high school diploma and some corporate jobs. Where do I leverage my ideas, IQ, and EQ? Well, let's explore. Now, you have everything, as I always say, and I wrote a book on it. You have everything. You are already that which you desire to be. You have enough, in other words. Any knowledge, wisdom, expertise, any capabilities, behaviors is cultivated along the way, and you don't need to learn those things. People show up to contribute, like, for example, the Henry Ford story in Think and Grow Rich. He was surrounded by people who have knowledge, wisdom, expertise in their areas, and he has it in his area, and he coordinated wonderfully. You may move forward with this idea here. Join the think tank. You may do that. And then as you do, what happens is further clarity, and not just what to do, ideas, hunches, plans, and inspiration. You may meet individuals. You may learn something about yourself. Doors can open up, and then it continues to expand accordingly. And so then you may end up, and I've seen this happen a number of times, ending up in a relationship which is a partnership. So rather than having to do or take great interest in the sales, the marketing, the operations, the finance part, and the leadership part, you just focus on the innovation, and then the other person or whoever is involved or a group of people, they take care of the other areas without neglecting them. That's the key. Every entrepreneurial venture that I see succeed in a flow-based way values the various areas, does not neglect them, but it doesn't mean the entrepreneur does it. They have people that help them, and if they don't have those people naturally show up. If we just set the intention that that is how we would like our business to be, it starts to play out that way, and further clarity arises. And by the way, you had the intuitive step to ask the question, and look, with each step you gain clarity. Now we're having a conversation, and so you optimize based on what is discussed, and the journey continues. Next question. Thank you for your years of content, Joseph. You're welcome. I do what I love to do. Commitment and consistency happen naturally as you do what you love to do without resistance. How do you deal with the feeling that there is no problem with your lack of income, and even though there is a desire for lavishness, you can expect it to be fulfilled on its own in some years? Applying the principles I've learned, it answers itself, but the illusion of the thinker, there's still an elusive impulse. So I believe what you're speaking about is the beliefs, as we were talking about earlier, the beliefs that generate these illusory thoughts of what about this, what about that, even if something does not physically appear, like the bank account doesn't physically appear to have $1 million or 100,000. How do you not identify with those appearances? Awareness is the key. And by that it is meant, and actually awareness is the master key. By that it is meant you are that pure awareness prior to the beliefs in mind. You are actually unaffected by these appearances. If the bank account does not show $10,000, $100,000, or $1 million, it does not mean that at a particular point it's going to not show $10,000, $100,000, $1 million, etc. I don't know if you watched my video on the calculator when it comes to long-term wealth. I'll link in the description to it. What happens with absolutely every entrepreneur that I know is the money compounded. The sales start rolling in. So they get one client, the next client, the client pays, more business is generated, Their bank account goes from 1,000 to 2,000 to 5,000 to 10,000, etc., etc. They invest that money either in their business or in some kind of investments or combination. and their net worth and the bank account continues to grow. Yet it is helpful to not look at the bank account in a way that you suggest that it means you won't have the opportunities. There are infinite ways to generate prospects. There are infinite ways to generate leads. There are infinite ways to convert the prospects and leads into clients. And there are infinite ways to engage in ongoing business with your existing clients, which can include referrals, offering additional products or services, etc., etc., etc. If you remain in flow, what happens is you're not affected by these appearances. You're not looking at your bank account and saying, oh, this is a problem. You say, everything just is. If you were to say something, you may say it that way. And what happens is some clarity emerges. And you say, oh, I can make this move. And again, that's an intuitive step. You take that step and it produces results. Or you gain further clarity and then you optimize and it produces results. I have a number of clients that have built very successful businesses running ads. They started by running ads for their businesses. And then what happened is they got really good at it. And people started asking them, other businesses started asking them, can you run our ad campaigns? And that became a very successful business. For example, when I built my IT business, people started asking me. They said, how did you put this marketing in place? How did you do this to get clients? How did you do that? And this and that. And those became offers. And that's how it was such an easy and natural transition for me to go from IT business to consulting and making these videos, etc., etc. Because there was a lot of inquiry as to how I did it. And while I might not have had the experience of individuals, let's say, who legitimately had 30, 40, 50, 60 years of entrepreneurial experience, it didn't matter because I had the experience that people were looking for and they were asking me and they offered compensation for it. And when they put these initiatives into their business started to grow. So it was wonderful compensation. Now, to remain in this way that I refer to, the flow-based way, if you look at your bank account, let it be. Essentially, that's it. You just let it be. It does not affect you. Who you are is that pure awareness. It does not affect you. And as you abide as that pure awareness, that belief is dissolved, and your attention naturally goes to where the opportunities are. Next question. Oh, this is related. When I see a Mercedes-Benz, I feel like they're calling my name. It's calling to commit and dedicate to deliver nothing less than excellence. Well, it's inspiring to you. I relate to that. You can have a muse, something that inspires you to generate wonderful quality, quantity, and spirit of service, as Napoleon Hill had articulated. But my actual finance conditions suggest otherwise. How can I handle this contrast in a way where I'm not going crazy? And so why would the appearances suggest that? It's based on conditioning. From personal experience, the money to buy the car came as a result of offering the products and services, fulfilling on the products and services, and receiving compensation for the products and services, multiplying my quality, quantity, and spirit of service. And then I was able to buy the car, whatever car I wanted. If I looked at my bank account, or if I look at my financial situation, or if I look at my spreadsheet, and that troubles me, then that's an opportunity point to release identification. As I no longer identify with that programming that generates resistance to the appearances, because the appearances just is. Everything just is. The individual is assigning meaning, either consciously or subconsciously, to the appearances. No shame, no condemnation. That's an opportunity for mind purification. And what happens is intuition, plans, hunches, inspirations are received within. You get some idea to generate a lavish, steady, dependable income consistent with integrity and mutual benefit. And then what happens is you take that intuitive step and the money starts to show up. And with every step you take, you gain clarity in flow. Mind is purified as well, as we brought up earlier. You optimize and the results happen. So we stop seeking outwardly to know inwardly. If you suggest that the appearances suggest that you lack or there's a limitation or you are not prosperous, you do not have what you desire, you do not have the knowledge, wisdom, expertise. And as mentioned, one does not need to have all kinds of knowledge, wisdom, expertise. All that naturally emerges. It naturally emerges. What you have right now is enough, and more gets added onto you as applicable. And so that stated, you don't let the appearances define you in a limited way. It's only you in mind that could suggest what the appearances mean to you. So you could say you define who you are, yet you know who you are as well. You are that perfection, that love, that happiness, the peace, the bliss, the fulfillment, the prosperity. And all of this appears to transform as you remain committed to your vision. I trust you've noticed this, and I've noticed this as well. As I did not identify with those beliefs, those limitation-based beliefs in relation to appearances, as they were dissolved, what naturally emerged were ideas, hunches, plans, inspiration, and also things changing on their own. All of a sudden, people would show up, and I would get a client or an opportunity would show up, and I move forward with it again. I take the intuitive step. Follow your heart and intuition. Everything else is secondary. And this becomes then a habit, commitment, and consistency. So in summary, I value the word commitment. I value it. I commit to my vision. Everything happens naturally. All these things appear to transform. When you commit to a vision, you have hunches, plans, inspiration show up. I take those intuitive steps. I gain further clarity. I optimize, and results happen again and again and again. What do you optimize? Well, in business, optimization of innovation, sales, marketing, operations, finance, leadership, or automation, delegation, elimination, part or in whole or in combination. And if you don't know how to do it, no worries. If you trust that people show up, the resources show up, they do. If you don't believe that they show up, then that generates resistance. It's like looking at the bank account or looking at the appearances and then judging by appearances rather than righteous judgment as stated in the Bible. So I trust you found this video to be helpful. We're going to explore these nuances in the next video here in relation to flow and challenge. If you would like a copy of this mind map, the link is in the description. Thank you very much for your questions as well. I appreciate your questions. If anyone is interested in submitting some questions so we can have exploratory conversations like this, it always ends up benefiting everyone. You could leave a question in the comments section, and I'm happy to explore with you. Again, I love to do this. This is exactly what I love to do. When you do what you love to do, you'll just keep doing it. You'll just remain committed in flow, and you'll consistently do it. And look, we're going on to almost an hour now. So if you would like a copy of this mind map, the link is in the description. Thank you very much for watching. I'll talk with you soon. Take care.